Millions of people know Jimmy Kimmel as the man who makes America laugh. Every night, he walks onto a brightly lit stage, jokes with celebrities, and entertains millions of viewers. To the world, he seems like someone who always has a perfect comeback and a smile ready for every moment. But behind that smile lies a story very few people expected to hear. There was one day when the cameras, the applause, and the comedy meant absolutely nothing. A day that began with overwhelming happiness, and within hours turned into one of the most terrifying experiences of his life. It all started with the birth of his son, Billy. Like every new father, Jimmy was filled with excitement. Family members celebrated the arrival of the newest member of their family. The delivery went well, and everything seemed perfectly normal. Billy looked healthy. Everyone smiled with relief, and it felt like the beginning of a beautiful new chapter. For a brief moment, life was exactly as Jimmy had imagined. But sometimes, life's biggest storms don't arrive with loud warnings. They begin with something so small that almost anyone could overlook it. As the routine medical examinations continued, an experienced nurse noticed something unusual. Billy's skin didn't have the healthy color doctors expected. She also heard a slight abnormal sound while listening to his heartbeat. To someone without medical training, these signs might have seemed insignificant. But experience teaches medical professionals that the smallest details can sometimes reveal the biggest dangers. Instead of sending the family home, doctors immediately ordered additional tests. The atmosphere inside the hospital changed. Conversations became quieter. Doctors started moving faster. The smiles that had filled the room only moments earlier slowly disappeared. Jimmy and his family could sense that something wasn't right. They searched the faces of doctors for reassurance, hoping someone would tell them everything was going to be okay. Instead, they received news that no parent is ever prepared to hear. The test revealed that Billy had been born with a rare and complex heart condition. His tiny heart wasn't working the way it should. Blood carrying oxygen wasn't flowing through his body properly, placing his life in immediate danger. In a matter of minutes, the happiest day of Jimmy Kimmel's life became one of the most frightening. Think about that for a moment. You spend months imagining your baby's first smile, the first trip home, and the future you'll build together. Then suddenly, instead of choosing baby clothes or planning family photos, you're surrounded by doctors discussing emergency treatment and life-saving procedures. For Jimmy, it must have felt unreal. Only hours earlier, he had been celebrating becoming a father. Now, every second mattered. Doctors explained that Billy needed specialized care that wasn't available where he had been born. Without wasting time, arrangements were made to transfer the newborn to a children's hospital where experts in pediatric heart surgery were already preparing to receive him. As the ambulance carried away a baby who was only days old, Jimmy and his family entered a world that no parent ever hopes to experience. Hospital hallways replaced celebrations. Medical equipment replaced laughter. Every update from the doctors carried the weight of hope and fear. Then came another heartbreaking reality. Billy would need open heart surgery. He wasn't 3 years old. He wasn't 3 months old. He was only 3 days old. A tiny baby, whose life had barely begun, was about to face one of the most serious medical procedures imaginable. For Jimmy, there was nothing he could do except trust complete strangers with the life of his son. And as the operating room doors slowly closed, one question echoed through every parent's worst nightmare. Would Billy survive? The answer to that question would change Jimmy Kimmel forever. As the operating room doors closed, Jimmy Kimmel and his family could do nothing except wait. Anyone who has sat outside an operating room knows that time moves differently there. Minutes feel like hours. Every time a doctor walks through the hallway, your heart skips a beat. Every phone vibration makes you feel the worst. Inside that room, a team of highly skilled surgeons were preparing to perform open-heart surgery on a baby who had been alive for only 3 days. It was a procedure that demanded absolute precision. Billy's heart was no bigger than a walnut, yet every decision the surgeons made could determine whether he would have a future. For Jimmy, fame offered no special comfort. At that moment, he wasn't a television host. He wasn't a celebrity. He was simply a father praying for one more heartbeat. Hours later, the moment everyone had been waiting for finally arrived. The surgery had been successful. The relief was impossible to describe. After living through hours of uncertainty, Jimmy and his family finally had something they hadn't felt since the diagnosis: hope. But the doctors were honest. This wasn't the end of Billy's journey. The operation had saved his life, but because of his rare heart condition, he would likely need additional surgeries as he grew older. His battle wasn't over. It was only beginning. Many people would have chosen to keep such a painful experience private. Jimmy chose a different path. When he returned to television, millions expected another night of comedy. Instead, they saw something they had rarely seen before. A father, not hiding behind jokes, not pretending everything was fine, but speaking openly about fear, gratitude, and the people who had made his son's survival possible. He thanked the doctors, nurses, and specialists whose years of training had given Billy a chance to live. He reminded viewers that behind every successful surgery is a team of people working through sleepless nights, carrying enormous responsibility with every patient they treat. His experience also changed the way he viewed healthcare. Jimmy realized that while his family was fortunate enough to receive life-saving treatment, many parents around the world face an additional burden, wondering not only if their child can be saved, but whether they can afford the care their child desperately needs. He used his platform to encourage people to think about those families, reminding everyone that a child's chance to survive should never depend on financial circumstances. Regardless of where people stood on the issue, one message resonated with millions. No parent should have to choose between saving their child and paying the bills. Billy's story became much bigger than one family's medical emergency. It became a reminder that life can change in a single moment. 1 minute you're celebrating. The next, you're facing the greatest challenge of your life. Yet it also showed something equally powerful. In the darkest moments, hope often comes from ordinary people doing extraordinary work. A nurse who notices one small detail, doctors who refuse to give up, and families who find the strength to keep believing when everything feels uncertain. Today, Billy continues his journey with the love of his family and the care of dedicated medical professionals. His story stands as a testament to modern medicine, the importance of early diagnosis, and the resilience of the human spirit. For Jimmy Kimmel, that unforgettable week changed more than his perspective. It changed his purpose. Because after experiencing how fragile life truly is, he understood something many of us forget. The greatest victories aren't measured by television ratings, awards, or fame. Sometimes, the greatest victory is hearing a tiny heartbeat continue to fight. And perhaps that's a real story behind Jimmy Kimmel, not the comedian who made millions laugh, but the father who discovered that the most meaningful moments in life happen long after the cameras stop rolling.